joy to be here with you. Is this a beautiful way to spend St. Patrick's Day or what? So welcome to our second annual speaker event called Booked Naples 2023. I want you to just do a little icebreaker and turn to your neighbor and say, Happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Let's just get it out. Ooh, oh, look, you're wearing green. How beautiful. Look at that. Look at your beads. Love it. All right, great. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Diane Scribner, and I live here in Paradise in Naples, and it is a joy to be part of O'Leary Publishing Company. I've had the privilege of being the coach for the speakers, and we've been working with these authors for 4 months, and they have gone through remarkable shifts in their own life. And we know that that's not just about speaking, it's about any challenge that you and I live into and through in our lives. So thank you for being here to witness that and to support them as they go through this process. That's why you're here, isn't it? Let's just give them a general round of applause for showing up. I had the privilege of publishing a book. Pay Attention. It's one of the ones that's in the bookstore tonight. We have 6 books available. 6 books? No, 8 books available tonight. Yes, I stand corrected. And mine is called Pay Attention. I published that in 2020, and it was, do you remember 2020? Yeah, quite a year to be putting out a book, and it was just a remarkable process, and it's April O'Leary I have to thank for that. I want you to take out your phone, if you would. Everyone take your phone out. I want you to have it right in front of you. And I want you to hold your phone up like this. Everybody got your phone? And say, shh. Thank you. If you'd silence your phone, that'd be wonderful. We appreciate that. Also want to invite you to take out your Booked Naples playbill. You were handed this as you came through the door. If you'd look at your playbill and notice, oh my goodness, look at the flow tonight. That looks pretty great. I'm glad I'm here. And then flip it over to the bookstore side. You see the 8 books that we're offering you, and there's a QR code. Do you see that right in the center at the bottom? If you take your phone, and some of you know how to do this, hopefully most of you do, and you go to your camera. I want you to do this with me right now. Go to your camera and hover it over the QR code. You see that? You see anything floating there in front of you? Yeah, anybody? Something yellow? It says O'Leary Publishing. Click on that if you would. Just click on that. And notice that it opens up in just a moment. Dun, 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 dun. Is yours taking a little while to load? Okay. There's mine. It says purchase signed copies and pick them up at the bookstore counter at Book Naples. So this is going to be for your shopping convenience. You can buy the books as you hear the authors. After you hear them speak, just go right in here and order however many books you want to have. I would say to remember that Christmas will be coming. And you'll want to get copies of these books. So please just thank you for your contagious generosity as you go through this evening. But we invite you to be fully present to each and every speaker, of course, and then go into your bookstore. And at the end, you will order the books and check out. But you needn't do any of that until we get to the close of the event. So there will be a meet and greet at the close of the event. And also you may have noticed that the Gulf Shore Players, and this is their theater, and they're building a new one, yay, that's gonna be amazing, that the Gulf Shore Players are hosting the bar that's in the area where we have a brand new art exhibit as well. And so feel free to avail yourself of that until 9 o'clock tonight. And all the funds and the support of Gulf Shore Players. So that's a beautiful thing. I want to just tell you that, and this is just to kind of bring you a sigh of relief. We have tonight a professional photographer and a professional videographer with us. And so you needn't use your phone for anything other than ordering books tonight. So we want to thank you for that, because there'll be plenty of photographs. There is no intermission tonight's event, and so it's just going to be this beautiful flow, and we invite you to sit back and enjoy yourself throughout this event. Thank you so much for being here. April O'Leary is the founder of O'Leary Publishing, and she is the very reason that each and every one of us is here tonight in all our various capacities. So will you please join me as we welcome onto the stage April O'Leary.
Thank you all for coming this evening. I am so thrilled to be hosting the second annual Book Naples event. Some of you came last year. Some of you spoke last year. Elliot's in the house. And some of you are new to our event, and we thank you for taking a chance on us here in Naples, and for Doug at the Norris Center for coordinating all the ticketing. We really are grateful. Part of why I'm up here is just to tell you how I got up here, really. I never had any intention of starting a publishing company. When I was, I don't want to tell you how old I was, but I'll tell you it was 10 years ago. I had a life coach practice, and I was also guest producing a radio show for my life coach mentor. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I found out it later meant you have to produce the guests. I had to book them for the show. Seems pretty obvious. But his one requirement was any guests that I were to book for the show had to have a book. And I didn't really understand that a book can be a ticket. It can be a door that opens many other opportunities. And so I thought, well, if that's a requirement, I should have a book, because I want to open those doors too. I want to speak on radio shows and podcasts. And so I had no idea what was involved in that process. But I did know that my in-laws were taking my kids, who were all 3 under the age of 10 at that time, to North Carolina for 7 days. And so I thought, I have 7 free days. What am I going to do? I'm going to write my book. So I pushed my kitchen table up under my window, which faced out into the lake, and I sat for 7 days, and I wrote the manuscript of what would become this book, Ride the Wave: Journey to Peaceful Living. And this was published in 2012. But naive as I was, I thought, I'm going to see who's going to be my dream publisher. So I pulled off some books on my shelf from maybe Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer. Was I an egomaniac? I don't know. But I thought I was going to be the next big bestseller. And so, of course, who would be my publisher? It would be Hay House. That's who was my dream publisher at the time. And they just so happened to have a writer's workshop in Tampa, Florida. So I bought a ticket. I went up there with my manuscript in my bag, thinking I was going to magically hand it off to the CEO. They were going to say, thank you so much. We've been waiting for you. And the rest would be history. Well, I left that 8-hour workshop a little deflated, thinking, all they want is a platform? I didn't know, what is a platform? How many Twitter followers you have? How many email subscribers? How many blog subscribers? I thought they were supposed to make me popular. Well, that's not really the way it worked. And I didn't know much about independent publishing. But I knew that I wanted this book, and I knew I was resourceful, and I knew I could figure it out. So I did. I put my mind to my computer. I hired editors. I hired book designers. And I got my book out into the world. Now, fast forward 6 years later, I had done a number of other books. And I had a friend who asked me, well, could you help me do a book? I had never thought of that idea. I guess I could help them do a book. So I did. And then I helped another one. And then I started O'Leary Publishing. So 10 years ago, that book led me to where I am today, working with all of these amazing authors and putting on this event for you. So the reason I'm telling you this is not because I'm trying to sell you my book services or anything like that. It's to say that a book is a magical tool that can take you places you never would have imagined. Not just as a reader, where you get to learn from the person that has had experiences maybe that could benefit you, and that's what you'll hear tonight from our authors. But you get to use that book if you're an author to see what kind of doors the universe will open for you. So I'm just grateful that I took a chance on myself and that I was able to put out my first book, and that today led me to where I am. Now, I'm not Deepak Chopra, and I'm still not Wayne Dyer, but I do have the distinct privilege of working with so many amazing people. I am so grateful for all of you that are here tonight, and we'll get to meet all of my authors and friends. And I want to welcome Heather DeRocher to the stage, who is our head editor. She is my right-hand girl. She does everything, editorial speaking for all of our books. And Shantae, who's also in the house somewhere, I can't see her, she's in the back, she connected us shortly after I did the first couple books, and it was love at first sight at Starbucks, and I said, you will never not do books with me. So here we are like 30 books later, and Heather's going to be introducing each of the authors tonight. She also became an author herself last year, and I am so grateful for all the work that she does. So, yeah, I always say till death do us part. So thank you, Heather, and take it away.
Thank you, April. It's so great to see all of you here tonight. So as the head editor at O'Leary Publishing, many of you might not know what that is, but I'd like to tell you a little bit about what I get to do every day. I have the great honor and the distinct privilege of working with incredible people who actually write and publish a book, because there's two parts to it, right? Lots of people write books, but how many actually publish them? And so I get to do that each and every day. And to me, an author is a brave person who shares their knowledge, their wisdom, and their experience with the world for the benefit of others. And it's such a pleasure to be able to help them do that each and every day. Writing a book is an adventure. That's one of the things that April and I like to say. And it's an adventure that we never know quite where it's going to take us, do we? They're all laughing because they're not sure they wanted to go some of the places that April and I took them. But the thing is about writing a book, the adventure takes you where you most need to go. And it's often a place that you couldn't have imagined even in your wildest dreams. One of the things that I truly believe is that the highest aspiration that any of us can have is to know ourselves well. Because when we know ourselves well, we create great relationships with those in our lives, and we make our lives and the lives of those around us better. And one of the very best ways that you can get to know yourself is to go through the writing and publishing process. And I see them all shaking their heads. And that was my experience too when I wrote my little book 2 years ago called Manuscript Magic. It was definitely an experience. Even though this is what I do for a living, it helped me to learn to know myself much better. So you might wonder, for those of you who haven't ever written a book, why someone would write a book. And in my experience as an editor and as an author, the reason that we write a book is to share our story or our message with the world for the benefit of other people. But what often happens, and I think it's happened for all of our speakers here tonight, is you go on this journey and you discover things that you never thought about yourself. And it was so much fun to dive so deeply with each of them into who they are and what life is. And writing a book will help you to do that. Now, all of our 6 speakers who are here tonight are very different. You will get to know them a little bit as April and I have. They come from all different parts of the country, and I want to tell you where they're from because this is pretty incredible. So we have San Diego, we have Las Vegas, we have North Carolina, New York, Cincinnati, and the very exotic Marco Island. Did I get all 6? Yeah. And so they're from all parts of the country and all walks of life. Their lives look very different, but the one thing that they all have in common is a desire to grow and evolve as human beings and to leave some kind of a meaningful contribution to the world for other people. And I know you'll feel that as you get to know them tonight as they speak. I am so blessed to have gotten to know them all in a way that Even some of their family might not know them, because this relationship is a very intimate relationship, because all of your stuff comes up when you're doing something like this. And I'm so honored that they trusted us to do that with them. And April and I are so grateful to have all of them and 30 other authors in our O'Leary Publishing family, because we really are a family. That is really the goal that we have, is to create a family. And we hope that some of you might decide to join our family, because we have a lot of fun. Another adventure that these 6 people got to go on over the last 4 months was as April, Diane, and I led them on the journey of writing and refining and revising the talks that they're going to share with you tonight. And it was a long process, and we sent them back to the drawing board quite a few times, because we wanted them to bring their best selves for all of you here tonight. So what they're sharing tonight are their stories, their struggles, and their triumphs. And we hope that you will see part of yourself in some of their stories, that you will laugh. You might shed a tear or two. I know I probably will, even though I've heard these over and over. I will probably cry again, because they're so good. And we hope that you will be entertained and also inspired tonight. And so, as Diane said, you can, from your phone, order books from the comfort of your own seat, autographed copies of all of these books, the 6 speakers, and also from Diane and April. And we have for you actually a little bit of a gift. If you purchase a book or books tonight, we would like to share with you a free gift of one of our bonus books. So we have 3 for you to choose from. The first one is The Influencer's Path to Successful Publishing. So if you want to know more about the publishing journey and how it works and where we fit into the whole thing, this is a great little book that will come free. We also have for you to choose The Old Cocoon, which is a really sweet illustrated story that April wrote that you will enjoy. It looks like a children's book, but it's actually for adults. Well, it's for everyone, I guess. And then also, obviously, my favorite book, Manuscript Magic, 7 Simple Steps to Writing a Book, that we put together to help anyone write a book. So you'll get to choose any of those. And so let's get started. So our first author, Dr. Paul Arciero, is the author of the PRISE Life. He is a research scientist in the area of fitness, nutrition, and performance. And to give you an idea of the caliber of his research and what he does, he has worked with professional and Olympic athletes to improve their performance. But his focus and his favorite thing is to help common people, just like you and me, who really need the most health they can have in their life. So his focus is to help people have optimal health through fitness and nutrition. And he has created something that any of you can put on your phone at some point called the PRISE Life app. And on the PRISE Life app, he has included everything that relates to his proven program of fitness, nutrition, and mind-body wellness. And I use it on a regular basis, and I really love it. It's very user-friendly. It has all different levels. So at some point, I would highly encourage you to get his app and use that. And it's free, which is really generous of him. So when April and Paul and I worked on his book, we had some fun. And one of the things that was the most fun for me was coming up with chapter titles, because I love to play with words. And so my favorite chapter title is Slow, Whole, and Dirty. Now, I'm not sure where your mind went with that, but that, of course, refers to how you should eat for optimum health. Slow food, as opposed to fast food. Whole food, and food that was grown in the dirt. So slow, whole, and dirty. So now I know you want to buy his book, right? Now, here's the wonderful thing, that Paul has spoken to thousands of people around the country and the world. He actually is really pretty well known, and we're honored to have him here. But the thing that we love is the story that he's sharing with you tonight. He has never shared before. This isn't about his research and all his science. This is the behind-the-scenes personal story that he went through over the last 15, 20 years. And we're really honored that he is willing to share that with each and every one of you here tonight. So it's my honor to welcome Dr. Paul Arciero to the stage.
As a little boy, always was dreaming And I was always dreaming of being a superhero. Many of you may have done the same. I had two requirements. One, I always had to fly. Two, I always had to save and help people. That was my journey. So I attempted flying. I would climb up on top of the kitchen counters and I would jump off. And one night I would put my blankie tied across my neck and I would twirl, making believe I was a superhero. So I lost my balance one night and unfortunately my forehead found the corner of a bookcase and I landed myself in the hospital with 12 stitches. So I decided that flying wasn't my thing. I needed a plan B. So as I said, I'd like to have the second requirement. That was saving people. I wanted to help people as a young little boy. And sadly, at the same time, I was experimenting being a superhero. My grandma Dee Dee and my grandpa John became sick and eventually passed away. Soon to follow was my own father, who developed a rare form of leukemia. So it was a rough start to my superhero that I was pursuing. But I didn't give up, because in school, I was learning about explorers. And you can kind of guess who I wanted to be as an explorer. Juan Ponce de Leon, where else but in Florida? So it was a good combination. I thought, why don't I join those two, the superhero saving people, and then Juan Ponce de Leon on his quest for the fountain of youth. I mean, who doesn't want to be young forever? So I said, wow, that could really work. So as time went on, I was an athlete, and I paid a lot of attention to my performance as an athlete. And one of the things that I did was paid close attention to my nourishment and then my training. And I pursued those with vigor. And it came time for me to make a decision if I was going to continue on with education. And so I attempted my first try going to college, and that didn't work out so well. I actually dropped out. And at the time, I was a pretty decent tennis player, so my older brother and I decided to go to Europe and try professional tennis. But after 3-4 months, I became unquenchably homesick, and I returned home. And even though my first try at Scott College and education didn't go well, I knew that I had to pursue that if I truly wanted to find the fountain of youth. But I transitioned in my thinking about the whole process. I said, it's nice to live young forever, but what's more important is providing other people the opportunity to live with optimal health and performance, whatever that might mean for different people. So I changed my fountain of youth to the fountain of health and performance. So as it turned out, when I went back to college and returned into the thick of it, I couldn't believe this, but there was actually a major in nutrition and exercise physiology and health. And I said, well, that's wonderful. This aligns perfectly with my dream. So I pursued that. And as it turned out, I ended up going to graduate school, and I really found my passion. And as I started in my career, I was remarkably successful in the research that I was doing in the field. And I kept on taking on more and more. I kept on pursuing my physical health through eating healthy and exercising pretty extreme. But I was building a new family. At the same time, I was building a new home. At the same time, I was building a new career with all of those responsibilities. And then it came. 3 a.m., I woke up like I was just jolted with an electric shock. I sprung up. My heart was pounding. My mind was racing out of control. I was having difficulty breathing. My limbs were tingling. As I remember, worst of all, the feeling of impending doom. Something was not right with me. I thought, my God, I'm 32 years old. Am I having a heart attack? Maybe it's some rare form of cancer, or maybe it's some disease yet to be identified. there was something wrong. I would try to run from them whenever they came about. I tried to Forrest Gump it. The harder I ran, the faster they came after me. They infiltrated all parts of my life. I would just be going in to teach a class. I would be going out to coach my tennis team. I was also coaching at the same time. I left that out. I was a college professor and a tennis coach. They would come at meetings, family vacations, sleeping, as I said, exercising. They were silent to appear, insidious by design. But I knew I had to find a cure if I wanted to fulfill my dream. You know, I put so much time trying to run from them, and the stress of them occurring unannounced hit me hard. And I experienced 2 herniated discs in my lower lumbar back that required 3 epidural spinal injections, 9 months of intense physical therapy and massage therapy to get me through that. Wow. At the same time, I experienced 2 bouts of atrial fibrillation. It's a heart arrhythmia, requiring me getting rushed to the emergency room to have my heart stopped and restarted again to get it back into rhythm. This was my reality for 15 years, off and on. Through it all, I remained committed to my childhood dream. And so I continued with my research. But I also had an opportunity. It was both the worst and the best time of my life, ironically enough, because it provided me an opportunity to re-examine what my definition was of optimal health. I went on to pursue 2 yoga teacher training certifications and started to incorporate more mind-body, emotional well-being, cognitive therapy into my own life. And that was a game changer. People started to ask me, what was it that pulled you through that? How did you get through it? And I said I had a very limited, as much information as I was gathering and conducting all of this research, perspective on what optimal health and performance was. I looked at it much more broadly. My worst fear during that time, I can't leave this out, was flying. Imagine being 30,000 feet up in the air in a closed cabin and having a panic attack. My research was getting recognition from around the world. I was being invited. They were inviting me to share my research at the leading universities, at conferences all around the world. I'd make up some lame excuse. I'm sick today. My son has a stomach bug. Worst yet, I would send my students in my place. Talk about humbling. It was a difficult time period. And as I said, I pulled through. More than anything, my epiphany was when I started witnessing firsthand those that had been study participants in my research, clients that I had worked with, family members, community members, who were thriving in their best life following my PRISE Life principles. I thought, wait a second. I'm kind of saving everybody but myself. So that was my turning point. So I left you hanging. I don't know how many of you picked up on it, but I didn't tell you who my superhero was. Now, many of you might be thinking, oh, you're Superman. And that was the other problem that happened. People would look at me while I was suffering through this debilitating time and think, oh, you got it all together. There's nothing wrong with you. Little did they know I was a broken man, literally, on the inside. Oh, never judge a book by its cover. So you might think it was Superman, but nah, he was not my guy. He was able to save the world all by himself with the weight of the world on his shoulders. My superhero was Batman. You might know why. He had help. He had Robin. And I realized that in order for us to live our best life of optimal health and performance, we need others to help us do it. I know I did. So I'll leave you with this. Keep your eyes on the prize. Thank you.
So our next speaker, Don Fedor, is the author of this book, The Ultimate Quest: Awakening to the Power of Love. He's had the joy of working with us not on just one book, but on 2 books. Oh, and he also spoke last year at Booked. He must really enjoy us. For him, I think the adventure of writing and publishing books is more compelling than retirement. Sometimes he's not sure about that, but most of the time I think it's true. When Don came to us, he wanted to publish his book under a pen name. D.F. Dawson was the pen name, and April and I laughed at him. He had been a professor at Georgia Tech, PhD, academic career, and he was not really sure about sharing his personal spiritual journey with all of those people. He was really keeping it kind of hidden. And we're so glad that he listened to us. We're kind of persuasive, April and I are, and used his real name and came out as who he is. Don has a lot of superpowers, as you can imagine, with a PhD and a doctor in front of his name. But one of my favorite superpowers that he has is his ability to take an idea that April or I ask him to do or suggest or give him gently and see how he does it so brilliantly. And he loves to look at us and say, I can't wait to see how I do what you're asking me to do. And then he usually says, I have no idea how it's going to happen. But he always does it, and we're really grateful for that. He has many fantastic stories to share, and we're really honored to have him here tonight with us to share those stories with you. So I welcome Don Fedor to the stage.
It's a bit sad to admit, but most of my life, I did not believe in miracles. I was pretty blind to some of the just miraculous things that were happening throughout my time. But thankfully, through the gift of hindsight, I've come to not only see, but really appreciate how phenomenal my life has been. For instance, I grew up on the obese side with a learning disability that we now know as dyslexia. Despite my best efforts, I flunked out of 7th grade. And some years later, I almost got tossed out of my freshman year of college. So to go from there to eventually getting a PhD at Illinois and having a career as an academic, what could be more miraculous than that? Actually, I think there is something more. And that is the quest that I'm currently on and have been for some years. Now, if somebody had told me years ago that I was on some kind of quest, I would have gone, what kind of drugs are you on? And I wouldn't have asked to share. I just would have liked to know where they were coming from. Because to me, quests were part of legend, myth, fantasy. They weren't part of real life. What I didn't realize is that my quest started over 30 years ago. And it was a time when I was seeking some inner peace and also some physical healing. And it followed a very serious bicycle accident. And at that time, I took meditation training. That led to a meditation practice, which led to me then going to a number of workshops, retreats, and on different and a broad range of spiritual and self-development type topics. It came to a point where I was willing, if something caught my interest, I was willing to go check it out. Why not try? What I was not willing to do, and I'm sure some of you can relate to this, was to reveal that side of my life to others. I had no desire to jeopardize my career, my image, by sharing things that happened to me during shamanic journeys in the Native American tradition, or in meditations where we explored the possibility of multiple lifetimes on Earth. Okay. I was really well acquainted with being that kid that was ridiculed, seen as fat and stupid. And I didn't want to open that door to that kind of vulnerability again. I was finished with that. Oh, wrong. That was until 2 very closely timed deaths. Literally changed everything. And the first was my brother-in-law unexpectedly died. And the whole family, or most of us anyway, assembled up in New Jersey to try to make sense of how we lost somebody we really loved and enjoyed at the age of 61. Unfortunately, parents couldn't join us because Dad was in hospice down in Florida, and so they couldn't travel. And the very early morning of my brother-in-law's memorial service, there was a light knock on my door. And it was my brother. He came in, pulled up a chair at the end of the bed that I was in, and told me he had received the phone call that Dad had passed. And we spent the next hour or so just talking about how different our feelings were about these 2 passings. For Dad, he'd been bedridden for like 3 years. I mean, we were honestly relieved that he had finally let go. And we were in shock over the brother-in-law we thought we were going to have around for lots and lots of years to enjoy. And it was in the quiet of that morning that I decided to take a risk and share with my brother some of the things I'd been experiencing and the possibility that life was not a one and done. Now, I was hoping he would think, hoping he didn't think I had gone off the deep end and was totally nuts at this point. And yet what resulted is something I will absolutely never forget. He shared with me that morning that there was something he had never been willing to tell anybody else because he was afraid they'd think he was delusional. But when he was 6 years old, he had a dream, actually a very, very vivid nightmare. He was the pilot of a World War II B-25 bomber. It was in flames. He had given the command to abandon ship. And he was trying to control the aircraft long enough for his crew to get out. And he said the strangest thing about that dream was that when he woke up, he had complete knowledge of that aircraft. Now, you might not be surprised, given what I just told you, that my brother, who is now 75 years old, has been flying since he was a teenager. But one of the great twists of his life story is that many years ago, a restored B-25 bomber showed up at the airport that he used in Illinois. And it gets better. He became his chief pilot. And I had known about his involvement with this vintage aircraft. But when he told me the dream, I asked him, what was it like to fly that aircraft for the first time? And he answered simply, it was like coming home. That conversation with my brother was a miraculous turning point for me. Because I realized, as successful as we both had been, my brother ran his own business, had done incredibly well. I was doing well as a professor. We were both afraid to share the sides of our lives. And that we probably were definitely not unique in that regard. So the thing that I had to ponder was I going to let fear continue to stop me from sharing the things in my life that might help others embrace the fullness of their lives? Now, I will tell you that I didn't jump on, oh yeah, that's a great idea, because that vulnerability stuff, that was tough. So it took a while, and I will say some help from a number of people, some of who are present here tonight, thank you, that I realized the answer was no. That it was time for me to stop hiding. The other thing that I came to appreciate was that for a lot of us, the ultimate quest is that journey to our own authenticity. So thinking back in your lives, what or who has shown up like that conversation I had with my brother that's been a turning point for you? What kind of experiences have you had with dreams, premonitions, or receiving subtle guidance that maybe defied logic, that reoriented your life? In other words, what is your journey to greater authenticity? Now, each one of our quests is going to look different. And sometimes it can definitely feel like you are pursuing that very elusive holy grail. And if your journeys are anything like mine, you're going to face some dragons and some deep-seated fears. But I can also assure you that the potential rewards are almost unlimited. And if you let it, your quest will take you on a journey that is legend-worthy. And if I may go so far, I suspect you will also find some amazing miracles along the way.
So don't forget you have your phone that has the QR code and your photo, and if you wanted either of those, the PRISE Life or the Ultimate Quest, those are books that are available, autographed copies from both Paul and Dawn. So when our next author came to us, it was actually a bonus deal. We got 2 authors, and it wasn't just any 2 authors, it was a mother and a daughter. And any of you who are either a mother or a daughter, or who have lived with a mother and a daughter, might know that that could be something of a challenge. But the next pair, or the next author who comes up, Roberta and Paige, they had already been through so much in their lives that writing a book was really the easy part, mostly for them. So Roberta and Paige wrote the book She Looks Fine, about the experience that they had when Paige was hit by a car and had a traumatic brain injury. And so this book, the subtitle is A Mother and Daughter's Journey Through a TBI, or a Traumatic Brain Injury. And if there's anyone here who has experienced or knows someone who has experienced either trauma or an invisible injury, this is the book for you. Paige and Roberta wrote the book that they wished that they had had. There was no book like this when they were going through that. And so this includes all the things that they learned that helped them through that journey. So it is a pleasure and an honor and a joy to welcome Roberta to the stage to share her story.
Today The day after my high school graduation, I began my career as a hairstylist. College wasn't an option for me, but my sister was a hairstylist, so that I followed in her footsteps. At 23, I was married, and by 40, I was divorced, but blessed with 2 beautiful children. Unsure of my future, I struggled for the next several years as a single mom, trying to give my kids the life I had been accustomed to. They had been accustomed to. I had a lot of self-hatred and self-destructing behavior, and all of my unhealthy habits turned into dis-ease. It took a fibroid tumor and an abusive relationship to finally wake me up. After healing from major surgery and deciding to take a break from dating, I began to focus on myself and my health and wellness. I was ready for the next chapter in my life. I was an empty nester. I sold my house and I moved into this gorgeous riverfront apartment. I was ready to live the life I had always imagined. After 30 years of working in a hair salon, I evolved my career, and I was traveling across the United States teaching hair extension classes. And one of my trainings sent me to Southern California, where I would do some exploring in my free time. It was a magnificent trip I'll never forget. And for a girl from the Midwest, I was in awe of the beauty. I couldn't wait to do more exploring over the next couple of days. The following morning, I was awakened by a call that would change my life forever. My 22-year-old daughter had been hit by a car while crossing the street in a crosswalk. September 9th, 2018. I will never forget. I rushed to the airport to be on the next flight back home. I was filled with anxiety. I had no idea what to expect. The only relief I had was knowing my son, Jake, was there with her. When I arrived at the hospital, Paige was so relieved to see me. But she seemed different. You see, she had a traumatic brain injury, which caused behavioral changes and an excruciating migraine. I didn't understand her injuries, but I found out later that all of the bleeding, bruising, and swelling on the brain caused her condition to worsen day by day. I wished she had more scrapes and bruises or broken bones, because it seemed like the hospital staff weren't taking her injury seriously, and they sent her home too soon. For the next 2 weeks, I fought like hell for my daughter, and I vowed not to leave her side until she would receive the medical attention that she needed. I knew something wasn't right. We struggled for the next couple of years. And I did everything I could. I started researching plant-based nutrition and anything, any holistic remedies that I could find to help her. After struggling for years, I finally hit rock bottom. I had spent all of my money on her recovery, and she still wasn't better. I remember hitting rock bottom. I walked down to the river, the place I would go to escape from everything, and I begged God for answers to help us. There was nothing at that point I could do, but I asked my parents for help. It's times like that that you realize there's always something to be grateful for. I made a decision that day that I would never be in that position again, and that I would do whatever it took to get us out of that mess. I began healing from the inside. I forgave myself for the mistakes I had made. And I began taking better care of myself with nutrition. And I practiced yoga and meditation. I learned to love myself for the first time in my life. And I learned my purpose here on earth, to help others learn to live their best life. The girl from the small Midwestern town with no college education, who eventually hit rock bottom, is here to tell you that it's never too late. It's never too late to make a difference in this world. With faith and persistence, anything is possible. We realize that obstacles can be turned into blessings when we look at things in a different way. And that's what my daughter did. After hundreds of doctor appointments and multiple forms of therapy, she still struggles to heal. But she learned through her gift of music that she is able to inspire others. Paige wrote a song called Fearless. And that song is about overcoming major obstacles. She invited her brother and I to feature on that song. And I should be introducing her right now to you. But she is on a mission, and she is in Texas on a tour. And she is doing so well, they wouldn't let her leave. So I want to ask you now to pull out your phones and turn your flashlight on, because we're going to have a dedication, and we're going to play her song. I'm going to invite my son up here. To listen to Paige's song, Fearless. So proud of you, girl. I know people say you look fine, but I know the truth.
It's probably gonna be hard to hear this. All my pain, you gon' really feel it. Hate to get so serious. I almost died and it turned me fearless. But now I'm coming for it. All my dreams, I'm gonna be running towards them. My team ballin' like it's Michael Jordan. I want what's mine and I'm coming for it. I'm coming for it. Doesn't matter what you've been through. You can be like me too. You might have got hurt, but there's still time for you to be true. There's still time for you to be true. You can be who you want to. Be who you want to. Do what you want to. Take a chance, you'll regret what you don't do. Just take it from me. It's better to live this life free. Free to be me, yeah, I'm free to speak. Yeah, the truth will set you free, but you first gotta believe in yourself. Everything you see now, yeah, started with me. Just with me. It's probably gonna be hard to hear this. All my pain, you gon' really feel it. Hate to get so serious. I almost died and it turned me fearless. But now I'm coming for it. All my dreams, I'm gonna be running towards them. My team ballin' like it's Michael Jordan. I want what's mine and I'm coming for it. I'm coming for it. That's a banger.
Woo! Y'all hear that? That's Paige. That's my sister. And she's your next favorite artist.
I hope that woke you all up. Thank you, Roberta and Paige and Jake. So our next author, Tim Rowe, wins the award for being the most efficient author that we have worked with. When he came to us, he had a 10,000-word manuscript on leadership. And April and I loved the tools that he had. He had been managing private clubs for 25 years. He had developed a lot of tools that were really helpful, and we loved it, but there was something missing. And as we got to know Tim, we realized how funny he was, what a good storyteller he was, and how many stories he had to share with us. And so we challenged him to include those stories to bring it to life. And he did. And he doubled the size of his book. And so his book ended up being Leadership Chaos to Clarity: 5 strategic steps that great leaders take to unlock their company's potential. And he did it in less than 3 months. So it was very, very efficient. You will see when he comes up here, the energy he has is like, go, do it, and get it done. This is the book that every leader needs to have the tools to help their team. And when our editor, Kat, who's here in the house today, read the manuscript on one of our proofreads through the book, she said, "Where was this book when I was an executive at a big company? I really could have used this book." So we're delighted that he's written this book for everyone who can use it, every leader out there, and we're excited to have him here to share with you his stories and his journey. So I invite Tim Rowe to the stage.
You know, I've never felt lower than the day that the church quietly delivered groceries to our front door. I can remember coming out the door and seeing the 2 bags of groceries, and I picked them up, and I came in, I saw my wife Amanda's face, and she was steady and supportive, a little surprised, but I know she didn't want to make me feel any worse than I already did. But I was educated. I was capable. So why couldn't I support my family? Well, as you may know, sometimes things in life don't quite turn out the way you planned. Sometimes those choices that you make don't quite go exactly the way that you wanted at all. So I was working multiple jobs, but my wife had always dreamed of being a mom. So even before she got pregnant, we decided that she would stay home to raise our children. We knew that that was going to put a lot of pressure on me to be able to make enough money to support our family, but those were sacrifices that we were willing to make. However, this anonymous groceries at the front door, this was not working. So it was the fall of 1998, and I was in the midst of pursuing a master's degree in exercise science. And part of that included a graduate assistantship. And that is when I discovered my true passion, which is teaching. It was amazing that this graduate assistantship helped me to discover that that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to teach at the collegiate level. I had loved every single minute of my opportunity to teach during my graduate assistantship. And the opportunity to inspire the students while I was teaching was incredible. Every term, I would emulate my high school geometry teacher, Mr. Demotica. You can imagine Mr. Demotica. He was great. And we would get all the tables and chairs into a circle in the room, and we would discuss some intense topic like abortion rights or the Bill of Rights or foreign policy. Now, this was a 3-credit general wellness course, not political science. But these students would intensely discuss these topics. Intensely, but respectfully. Can you imagine that? Respectfully? Amazing. But what was so amazing is I would leave the classroom inspired, exhausted, but inspired. And it was those times, those connections with the students and the connections with the staff at the school as well, that were like rocket fuel for me. That was my passion. Unfortunately, my children and my wife could not eat my passion for dinner. So something had to change. And luckily, God was about to change some things. It was on a Sunday in December of that fall when Amanda and I decided to attend church. And we hadn't been going very often since we had 2 kids under the age of 3. After the service, we were invited to attend a Bible study where we would be paired up with another parishioner, and we would share what we were praying for with them. Well, I shared that we had been struggling financially and were praying for a solution. Well, at the end of the session, we all came together and we held hands and we bowed our heads, and each person shared the prayers of their partners in the group. Well, just 3 days later, that prayer must have been heard, because just 3 days later, my office phone rang at the school, and it was the general manager of the Indianapolis Athletic Club asking if I wanted to apply for the athletic director position. The compensation package would triple my income, triple my current income. So the answer had to be yes. It was yes. It was an amazing solution to our financial difficulty. However, and there's always a but, I would have to give up pursuing my master's degree, and I would also have to put my passion for teaching on hold. Well, however, I still had a fantastic new job as the athletic director. And 2 weeks later, I was running the athletic department at the club. And just 9 months later, I was the general manager of the Indianapolis Athletic Club. An amazing blessing from God, no doubt. An absolute amazing blessing. However, it was a challenge, an intense challenge. And I guess sometimes we do need to be careful what we pray for. Anyway, so as soon as I had gotten promoted from the athletic director position to the general manager role, I enthusiastically rolled out a whole new vision for where we would take the club. And I was thinking proactive, let's win-win, let's think total positive, new levels of accountability. I mean, I was excited about all these new items I was going to roll out as a new leader, now leading 125 people. Now, time out for just a second. Enthusiastically may not be strong enough of a word. Think just worked out, triple latte from Starbucks, Van Halen enthusiastic. Yes, I went into that meeting a little too fired up for the first time you're going to roll out a vision to your new department heads. Well, the result, the executive assistant, the executive chef, and the clubhouse manager quit with no notice. It was a little bit challenging, to say the least. So what went wrong? Yes, while I was enthusiastic, I just didn't have the tools or the experience to lead a team. I certainly didn't know how to roll out a new vision and have a team members think of it in a positive fashion. It wasn't that the vision was wrong, it's just that I hadn't respected them or their expertise or their passion as we started to craft a new vision for where the organization was going to go. Now, this club was in dire straits. The organization had been faltering for years, and millions of dollars in deferred maintenance were catching up with us, or even had gone beyond us. So it was a very challenging time for the club. Yes, I could support my family, but what I really needed was a way to be an effective leader. And maybe more importantly, I needed a way to bring my passion for teaching to leadership. So, for 5 long years as the general manager, I would learn new things and bring it back to the club, and I would make mistakes. And I'd go to conferences, and I'd learn these great new strategies and bring them back to the team and make a lot of mistakes. And in meetings, I talked way too much, and I listened way too little. And you can ask my wife, at the end of each day, I would go home and complain way too much. However, my time at the athletic club turned out to be an amazing education. I learned a ton, and I'm very thankful for those opportunities. And the more I learned, the better I got at my job. I was finally able to start bringing people together to work on a vision and also work on the tools that we would need in order to bring that vision to life. And I was able to bring people together and inspire them to come onto the team and create something incredible, something remarkable. And it was at that time that something really amazing happened. I learned that being a leader naturally allowed me to teach. And my passion and my career kind of came into alignment. It was a very exciting time for me. Now, God's career path for me was certainly challenging and very unexpected. But it did help me to bring my passion for teaching to leadership. And it allowed me to learn how to bring people in to systems and vision and passion. I had found my way, which was different from other leaders, but it was incredibly effective for me because it was my passion. So it was through leading, not very well at first, that I learned to lead successfully. And I guess for me, I had to go through a little chaos before I could find clarity.
Am I supposed to fly or something? So, amazing things can happen when you write a book. And one of the things that I have enjoyed watching happen with our authors is how they often become a lot more of who they truly are, just as Dawn talked about that journey to authenticity. Our next author, Devon Taylor, is the only author speaking tonight who's written a fiction book, and his book is called Icarus Finds His Power. And he wrote this book, created this book, that is for young people to inspire them. He created this amazing fantasy world for young people. And books can serve so many purposes, and the purpose that it really began to serve for Devon was for him to bond with his 4 foster children and to build his new family, and that was how the project started. But what happened during the writing of the book is that Devon actually found his own power in writing Icarus Finds His Power. And he found enough power that he was willing to drive across the country from San Diego with his 4 children and his partner and his mother to come here for this event at Booked. You heard that right. And so here all the way from the West Coast is Devon Taylor to share his incredible story.
The most life-changing day of my life was on August 18th, 2021. All it took to change my life was one phone call. I was on my way home from volleyball practice where I was an assistant coach for the women's volleyball team at Long Beach City College. It was my first year as a collegiate employee, and I felt like I was on top of the world. COVID was just ending, and sports were finally returning to normal. And then I got a call. It was my mom, which was not unusual, but what she had to tell me would rock my world. My 4 nieces and nephews, Damon, Olivia, Tina, and Noah, were in a situation that was no longer safe. They needed somewhere to stay, potentially a permanent home. It was really hard to take in that moment because me and my mom both worked about an hour away from where we lived. So someone would have to tend to the kids. My mom had been in her career for almost 15 years, so that person was me. At first, I thought, I don't know how to be a dad. This was all new to me. But as I felt that and as I thought that, deep down inside I knew what the right thing was to do, and I told my mom without really thinking, let's go get him. And then another thought slammed into me. What about my partner, John Carlo? A few months prior, I'd met the most amazing man. His connection with me was so strong, and I felt like someday we would have kids, but this soon? And 4? It was a lot to take in, and honestly, I didn't know how to tell him. So nervously, when I got home, I told him what the situation was, and he said, okay, great. I wasn't expecting that, but that's my amazing partner. From the day John Carlo and I have been together, he's been so supportive of anything and everything that I want to do. So my mom, John Carlo, and I decided that our small family of 3 would take in my 4 nieces and nephews to become a big family of 7. So on the day we decided to pick them up, I was so nervous. The night before, I was thinking things like, will they remember me? Will I be able to connect with them? Will I still be considered their cool uncle? It was a lot to take in, but John Carlo, being the supportive partner, he pulled me aside, he looked me in my eyes and said, no matter what, they will be loved. His words calmed me, and I felt a great sense of relief and support. So the day of, John Carlo decided to stay home and make a big feast to welcome the kids in, and me and my mom went to go pick the kids up. As we arrived to pick them up, they were ecstatic. It was like a big family reunion. We shared hugs, we cried, we laughed. My mom quickly took the girls with her because she wanted to have girl time, and I took the boys with me. As we were driving, me and Damon were catching up, and Noah was sitting in the back complaining about traffic. Something so simple had become so precious in that moment, and it felt really good to just connect with them. When we got home, that's when the real work began. Most parents raise their children from babies, but we were raising children who had already developed personalities, who were rebounding from a huge dose of trauma. So I didn't know how to connect with them at first. So initially, I thought, why not just ask them, what do they want to be when they grow up? Damon and Tina wanted to be YouTube stars. Olivia dreams of becoming an artist, and Noah would say, I don't know. They all wanted to share their artistic gifts with the world, and I wanted to connect with them. But how do I do that? I thought first maybe I should share my passion with them, volleyball. But I quickly realized volleyball wasn't in my life to necessarily pass the sport along to them. But maybe I could take some of the things that I learned and I could teach them. or lead them like a parent. So that required a lot of deep soul searching, and I thought long and hard about what I could do to connect with them, and I finally had an idea. So I sat the family down, and I told them, I have a deep desire to write a book. They all looked at me with surprise, which made sense. I had never expressed I wanted to write a book. It was something that I didn't believe I could do. But now with 4 children in front of me who had dreams of their own, I had to show them that I could realize my own as well as they could. I continued. I want to not only write a book, but I want to write a book together as a family. At first it was quiet, and then they all started talking at once. Tina said, when do we start? Damon said, I will draw the main character, and Olivia said, we should use Sailor Moon as our influence. And when I asked Noah, what did you think, Noah? He would say, I don't know. It was so great. We were all laughing, we were all connecting, but most importantly, I was getting to know the children. So, fast forward, we created this illustrations for all of the characters, and we wanted to create characters that would empower children from all around the world. And so, we did. We created a story for a children's chapter book. But then what? I was lost. I didn't know the first thing about publishing a book. So I began to give up on an idea that was so important to me, but now was important to the 4 children I was raising. I felt powerless. Have you ever felt like that, where you just feel powerless? How did you find hope? How did you find your power? For me, it was my amazing support system, my loving partner, Giancarlo, my beautiful mom, and the 4 amazing children that I was raising. One day I was researching how to publish a book, and everything about it was frustrating. It seemed too hard or too expensive, and just the thought of someone buying a book from me. Who did I think I was, J.K. Rowling? And then Giancarlo pulled me aside. He looked me in my eyes and he said, I found a publisher. And then he continued, we meet with them next week. I could not believe what I was hearing. My eyes widened. I was in complete shock. While I had given up on an idea that not only meant so much to me, but my entire family, my partner was right there supporting me and saying, yes, you can. Yes, we can. So we had a book, we had the illustrations, we had a publisher. Nothing was stopping us, right? Nope. Life has a way of showing you if you really want something, you've got to go after it. So the publishing team loved the idea of the book, but refinement was needed. So I went back to the drawing board not once, not twice, but 3 times. And each time I thought about giving up. It was one of the hardest processes in my life. But I felt that was life's way of showing me not only was I crafting a story that meant so much to me and my family, I was crafting a story that could mean anything to any family that reads it. So, after I went back to the drawing board and I finally was able to come together with an idea that I felt comfortable with and the publishing team fully supported, I was able to birth the story of Icarus. And Icarus is an important character to me because he is an embodiment of my inner child and all the struggles I and my children have been through. So, one day I had a really big breakthrough. I was sitting in front of the manuscript and I was asking myself, why am I doing this? And then I thought, this is the why. I wanted to create a story that empowered and inspired children. It was that simple. Once I stopped complicating it, that's when the story was completely finished. So choosing to become a father not only inspired me to write a book and to find my true calling, it inspired me to finish something that I had started. and my desire to empower the children of the world, I empowered myself. So I leave you with a quote that has inspired me and my family to embrace all that life has to offer. There is a hero in each of us. Embrace the journey, and you will find the hero within.
I'd like to invite Devon's partner and mother and 4 children who have come across the country to stand up. Where are you? Go ahead and stand up.
Hand me your pen and I'll rewrite the pain. When you're ready, we'll turn the page together.
This is what a family can really look like. And although Giancarlo's name is not on the book, through the process, he really was the co-author. So thank you, Giancarlo, for your support. So our final speaker is the most resilient person I have ever met, and I've met a lot of people. She has quite a few friends who have flown in for this event. Must be one right here whistling in the front. I am so glad that Kendra Petty survived many, many, many near-death experiences so that she could be here to share her story and so that she could write her book, I Can't Believe I'm Not Dead. The subtitle says it all. Escaping abuse, a cult, attempted murder, and other insanities. A story that cannot be true, but is. One of the things that I love about Kendra Petty is how many incredible people she has in her life. And we recently, on March 7th, had her Zoom book launch, and we were blown away when our Zoom room of 100 people was full and people couldn't get in. So this tells you a little bit about how incredible Kendra Petty is. We are so grateful that she is here to share her story with you. And the amazing thing is that although she's had a life that's unbelievable in so many ways, she's actually never shared her story with but a few very, very close friends. And so now she has it here for the whole world to read, and also she's sharing it with you here today. So I welcome the amazing Kendra Petty to the stage.
I like that song. It's a good song. But I'm not on fire, I promise. I cannot believe I'm not dead. Seriously, I cannot believe it. I have escaped death on a number of occasions. It baffles me how many times I've been in situations where I could have or should have died, and I didn't. Along with all the near-death experiences, there have been so many extremely bizarre, sometimes funny, but typically disastrous incidents and accidents that have happened to me that have left my friends either laughing or crying, sometimes both at the same time. Like the time that I was having a night terror and I ran out of my second-floor bedroom onto my balcony in the middle of the night while I was asleep, and I was naked. I wish I could say that that event ended there, but it did not. I then jumped over onto my next-door neighbor's balcony, still asleep and still naked. And his balcony was much lower than mine because our townhomes were built on a hill. So when I finally woke up on the balcony, I really had a difficult time getting up to my balcony and back to my home. And did I mention I was naked? Running out of my home or my hotel rooms in the middle of the night, in my sleep, naked, became a common event for me. So I finally had to start sleeping with clothes on. My cousin Sheila, who is here in the audience with us tonight, along with all my other cousins and my wonderful friends, thank you for being here. My cousin Sheila will remember, because we laugh at this frequently, that when we were kids, she nailed me in the forehead with a wooden baseball bat when she was in the middle of a full swing for the baseball. Now, many of the things that have happened to me have not been my fault, but this one was definitively my fault because I jumped in front of her when she was ready to swing like the 6-year-old idiot that I was. I don't know who got it worse, me or Sheila, but I'm glad she's still alive and here today, and I'm glad I'm still alive. There was another time that I almost got locked out of my hotel room in Milwaukee when I was traveling for work because I was having yet another night terror. And the only thing that saved me from not getting locked out of my hotel room and getting stuck in the hallway in the middle of the night, naked, in the Hilton Hotel, was that when I was running out of the hotel room, I swung open the door and I hit my foot and I broke my toe. Breaking your toe will wake you up even out of the deepest sleep. And it's the one time that I was grateful that I broke a bone. I mean, what would I have done if I had gotten locked out? Like, gotten on the elevator and gone down to the hotel lobby naked, walked up to the front desk and said, I need a new room key. What's that? Oh, no, I don't have an ID on me. I'm sorry. But I really am Kendra Petty in room 1269. Or the time that Snoop Dogg, the rapper, harassed me for over a year and threatened to kill me. Truth. I had clothes on for that. But it is yet another miraculous escape from potential disaster, and Snoop and I, we kind of made amends at the end. Listen, I could go on and on and on with the very bizarre, sometimes funny, incidents and accidents that have happened to me that have caused physical pain, sometimes laughter, occasionally tears, not my tears, my friends' tears. But the things my body has been through is astounding. Over 80 ER visits and doctor's visits for broken bones, concussions, stitches, surgeries, dislocated appendages, things lodged in my eye more than once, being electrocuted more than once, and other ridiculous and bizarre events to cause so much physical pain. I mean, I even had a chunk taken out of my heel when I was snorkeling in Hawaii by a stingray on the same day that I had to go get my head razor shaved bald because I'd lost so much hair from chemo. That was quite an eventful day. I'm lucky to be here. But while some of my stories are a little funny or entertaining, not everything has been so funny in my life. There's been a tremendous amount of trauma and tragedy and loss and heartbreak. So not everything's so funny. The worst tragedy of my life happened when I was a child, when my brother, who was my best friend, died. He was 10 and I was 8 when he was killed in front of me in a tragic accident. He died protecting me. He died making sure I was safe. He died and I lived, and for years I could not believe that he was dead and I was not. That tragedy made my already mentally ill mother go even madder. It made my father leave us, and it gave me horrible night terrors that have lasted a lifetime. It also created an environment of blame for my brother's death that my mother took out on me. For years and years, she was extremely physically abusive, emotionally, verbally abusive to me. And I took that abuse as punishment for my brother's death. I lost my brother, then I lost my family, and I blamed myself. My mother remarried, and she started a church. Her and her husband started a church in their home that morphed into an extreme religious cult that created a haven for yet more abuse, and it cut us off from the real world for years and years. After high school, I left Oklahoma, where I was born and raised, and I moved to New York City. I was determined to leave the crushing traumas of my childhood behind me and start a whole new life in New York. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college. I graduated college, and I started focusing on building a career. My only goal in life then was to climb the corporate ladder of a company in an industry, climb the ladder as high as I could and make as much money as I could. I moved 13 times for my career. Almost every move a promotion, a bigger title, more money, more responsibility. I had set my life on an incredible track of success and happiness, and I thought, it's going to be smooth sailing from here on out. But it wasn't. That cycle of trauma and tragedy started all over again for me, and again and again. I married a woman who I had no idea was an addict, a very abusive addict. We can talk later about my lack of recognizing red flags and my lack of boundaries, but she was an extremely abusive addict. She broke bones in my body on multiple occasions. I have scars all over me from her abuse. There were times I thought I might die at her hands. All the while, I kept climbing that corporate ladder, hiding from everyone the hell I was living in at home. And because I gave my career so much attention and so much care, I thought I was safe at work until I wasn't. Now, this may sound unbelievable to you, but it is unfortunately very real and very true. I took the number 2 position under the CEO of a corporation to keep climbing the corporate ladder. As executive vice president, I oversaw several of the companies that this firm owned. Unbeknownst to me, I had joined an organized crime style firm involved in many illegal activities. And as those illegal activities started to reveal themselves to me slowly, things really went sideways for me at work. They got very bizarre, very scary. Then, my employer tried to kill me. Let me say it again. Then my employer tried to kill me. They put poisons in my home, in my car, in my office. I was unknowingly ingesting the poisons, inhaling them and breathing them in every day, wearing them on my clothes. The poisons made me very sick, and they led to several sicknesses and illnesses that lasted over a decade. Some things I still deal with today from being poisoned. Almost being killed almost scared me to death, and I shut down. I lived in solitude and extreme fear for years. I trusted no one. It was the scariest time of my life. Almost being murdered will do that to you. After a whole lifetime of trauma after trauma and tragedy after tragedy, it started to wear on me. It really started to wear me down. Every day I had to show up in my life, in my career, for my friends, for my family, for myself. Every day I had to fight to stay alive. The will to live and survive is inherent in all of us. We all have it. And for me, I had to grasp it so tightly just to make it through. 4.5 years ago, I hit a wall. I hit a wall so hard. You've heard the saying, sick and tired of being sick and tired? That was me. I was sick of being afraid. I was sick of the drama. I was sick of the trauma. I was sick of being sick. I was done. I was not dead, but I was not living, at least not the life I wanted to live. I had to get to the bottom of why my life continued to be this cycle of trauma and tragedy. I started reading and learning, digging in, looking for ways to heal myself, heal my body, my mind, my soul. There were a lot of things that I did, a lot of changes I made, but there's a few that I want to share with you. First, I started practicing gratitude on a whole new level. I'd always been very grateful for my career, my success. I never took that for granted, ever. But I really started focusing on gratitude for all things in my life, every day. And second, and this was really hard for me, I started practicing openness and love, letting my walls down and letting people in. And as hard as that was, and still is for me to do today, I really pushed myself to let that happen in my life and in my heart. Third, I started focusing on forgiveness. Forgiveness for all those that hurt me, and there have been so many. And I'm not 100% there yet, but it's something I work on every day. but also forgiveness for myself, for what happened to my brother, to let go of the decades of guilt and shame that I have. And I'm for sure not 100% there yet either. Forgiveness and release of that will be things that I practice for the rest of my life, because for me, it's a process to get there. Now, most of you can probably relate to at least some of my stories. Okay, probably not having your employer try to murder you, but if any of you have had your employer try to murder you, please come see me after so we can compare notes. My message to you is that if you are on the merry-go-round of trauma and heartbreak and loss, as I was, you can get off of it. You can heal. You can find peace and joy. You deserve to not just survive in this life, you deserve to thrive. In closing, as you can see, I am not dead. And because of that, I know just how lucky I am. For me, the words blessed, fortunate, and lucky are synonymous, and I'm lucky to be alive. And as a daily reminder of how lucky I am, I had the word lucky tattooed on my palm so that every day I could look at it and remember that I am blessed, fortunate, and lucky. Lucky not just because I survived so much trauma and tragedy, but lucky because I learned how to thrive in spite of it. If I can do it, you can do it too. I'm so grateful to get to spend tonight with you. Thank you very much for being here.
Wow, right? Pretty great. Oh my gosh, this has been such a joy to be with you, and thank you so much. You guys really were good listeners. You were paying attention, and that makes such a difference. I hope that you do feel the inspiration to take whatever it is that you have as a dream in your life and make it come true for you. What happens is you just take a little step, just a little step. You hold to what it is you believe you can do or want to do. You engage your team, your friends, your family, and miracles take place. It's really just how things happen on the earth plane and beyond. So thank you, God, for this day. I want to encourage you to, remember we talked about the QR code on your phone? Remember that part? Okay, it's time now to order, at the end of the event, it's time to order your books. And what will happen is you'll go to your cart, you go to checkout, and when you check out, you'll receive an email, which you'll then give to the bookstore. Is that correct? Yes. And the bookstore is in the lobby. And that's not the only thing that's going to take place in the lobby. There is the bar is open until 9 o'clock, and that is hosted by Gulf Shore Playhouse. That is the Equity Playhouse, the theater group that uses this beautiful stage and is building a new one as well here in Naples. And so all the monies that you give for whatever refreshments you gain goes to support the Gulf Shore Playhouse. And so we're really, really grateful to them for allowing us to use this. They actually have a whole set. Yesterday, if you could have seen this place, there's a set that they're building right behind these red curtains that's quite amazing for the next show. So you can see how flexible everybody is in the theater business. So we want to thank Gulf Shore Playhouse. We also want to thank Doug Mitchell. Is Doug in the house? Is Doug here? We want to thank Doug Mitchell. If you see him, he has been working here for years, and Doug has made everything happen for us. And it's just been a wonderful joy to be with the Norris Center, and as we've created this event. And we also want to thank Dustin and his wife. Dustin is our sound engineer and is doing the videos for all of our speakers. So Dustin, thank you very much. Thanks for holding your applause. Oh, well, okay, yeah, let's have applause for Dustin. Thank you. And also Louie, our photographer. Now, let's just applaud all those people. Thank you. Thank you. So Book Naples will be coming back next year, and You know, some of our stories get to be written in books and shared. Some of them we speak. Some are really things that we hold in our hearts, and we don't share them necessarily in public. But if you have in you a story that you want to share, this wonderful publishing company, O'Leary Publishing, is here for you. It's a concierge publishing company, and you may know people that you want to also refer to them as well. But the truth is that you have in you some miraculous ways of expressing. You are, in fact, the light of the world. So we want to thank you for being here tonight, for shining your light as only you can shine your light, and for bringing forth this wonderful, wonderful experience that is you in action, traveling at the speed of you. It's magnificent. And so I want to just say to you on St. Patty's Day, may every road rise to meet you. Thank you for being with us tonight. God bless you.